again. I am now going to read chapter 19 of Dead End in Norvelt. I called her on July 17th and she hung up. I called her on the 18th and it sounded like she threw the phone across the room. I called her on the 19th and she was softening. "You know what I'm doing?" she yelled. "No," I replied. "Dropping the phone in the human innards bucket." I heard something like a splash and a gurgle. I hung up and went directly to the bathroom. My nose was right on time. I looked in the mirror and the first drop was just sliding down over my upper lip. I called her on the 20th. I was wearing her down. She held up a pair of dentures and made them chatter while she made spooky ghost sounds in the background. Then she hung up. I called her on the 21st. "Okay," she said, sounding a little exasperated. "Do you know who put the bullet in your rifle?" "I'm working on it," I said. "And do you know why your dad is buying and moving all the Norvelt houses to West Virginia?" There was silence, but I could hear her brain operating. "Okay," she said. "Here's the deal. My dad said to keep it a secret, but I'll tell you. Only you have to sneak out of your house tonight and go on Girl Scout fire patrol with me. It's my night to keep an eye on the empty houses so the Hells Angels don't burn them down." "Can't you just tell me over the phone?" I asked. "Nope. Show some backbone and sneak out," she said. Then I made a decision that almost got me killed forever. "I will sneak out," I quietly replied. "Just tell me where to meet you and what time." "On the other side of the school," she said. "We'll start with Section D at 10 o'clock. 10? I repeated. "Be there or beware," she said, and slammed the phone down. I went down into my rebuilt igloo and gave the evening a lot of thought. Then I did a little planning and preparation, and when it was 9:30, I jumped into action. I walked into my mom's room and kissed her goodnight. "Sleep tight," she said. "You too," I replied, hoping she would. Then I walked back down the hall, past my bedroom to the basement door, which I had left partway open because of the noisy latch. I slipped sideways through the doorway and picked up the flashlight I had left on the top step. I turned it on and carefully went down to the basement steps. I passed the washing machine and furnace and entered the old coal bin, which was no longer used. There was a coal chute, like a sliding board, that went up to the metal hatch like a bigger version of a mail slot where the coal had been delivered. I scampered up the chute. I opened the latch and swung the hatch open. It didn't creak because I had earlier oiled the hinges. I turned my flashlight off and wiggled my way out and gently lowered the hatch behind me. I jammed the flashlight into my back pocket and walked quietly behind the garage, where I had a bag with my Grim Reaper costume. I put on the black robe and kept the mask pushed back on the top of my head for now. I stepped out from behind the garage and saw my mother's light was already off. If my dad came home late, he would never check on me. I picked up my pace and headed for the school. Bunny was already there and smoking a cigarette. "Well, look who decided to be a man for a change," she remarked when she saw me. She held out the pack of smokes. "Want one?" "No wonder your growth is stunted," I said, and pushed her hand away. "I can still kick your tail, so watch your mouth." She started up. "Let's just get going," I said, and put out the cigarette. "We're not here to start fires." She threw it down and ground it out with her shoe. "Okay," she said, "since you showed up, here is the deal with my dad. He buys all the empty Norvelt houses and is selling them to Eleanor, West Virginia, because that is a bigger town and more people die there and business is better there. He figured he's going to have to shut down here and we'll move there." "Well, that makes sense," I said, "but moving the house is driving Miss Folker nuts. She loves this town and can't stand to see it die off." "Believe me," Bunny said wisely, "I've seen a lot of people looking at things that have died off, and they get over it. So she'll get over it too." "What about the land?" I asked. "Are you going to build a huge cemetery?" "No, my dad wants to build a big development called Hufferville," she said. "Are you pulling my leg?" I asked. Just then, Bunny grabbed my shoulder and we stopped walking. "Listen," she said. "It's a car," I said, "not a motorcycle." "They've been sneaking up on the town in cars," she said. "There have been half-dozen small fires that haven't been reported because Dad doesn't want to scare people." The car was slowly heading our way. We ducked down behind a hedge until it passed, and then the brake lights came on. A Hell's Angel got out of the passenger side and popped the trunk open. "What do we do next?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Instead, she showed me the silver whistle she had on a string around her neck. The secret signal, she whispered back. The Hell's Angel grabbed a can of gasoline and walked over to the porch of the house and began to slosh gas onto the boards and railing. I looked at Bunny, but she didn't move. I elbowed her. She reached into her pocket and pulled out 2 fist-sized rocks. She gave me one. I nodded. Then she stood up and yelled, "Hey!" The guy stopped and turned toward us, and she threw her rock. It hit the house. She stopped his gas can. He dropped his gas can, and I heard his metal lighter flip open. "Hey!" I yelled and threw my rock. I had no idea where it went, but in an instant the entire porch burst into flames as if I had thrown a grenade. Bunny was blowing her whistle, and the Hell's Angel, with his wild hair and bushy beard, could see me in the firelight. He pointed at me. "Kid," he growled, "I'm gonna kill you." That was the moment I realized my mask was pushed up on my head and he could see my face, and I could see he was running in my direction. "Run for your life!" Bunny cried out, and she took off. Sorry. I ran in another direction. I don't think the Hell's Angel followed because I could hear their car take off and the peel rubber as it hit the main road. I slowed down for a moment, and that was when I could hear Bunny's whistle start up again, and then the other whistles followed. The Girl Scouts had a system set up, but I didn't have time to admire it because I knew that the fire department would be called and the fire whistle would go off and wake the entire town, and I knew Mom would hop up and the first thing she would do is dash in my room and check on me to make sure my room wasn't on fire. I ran as hard as I could with the costume bunched up under my arm. My mask went flying off my face, but I didn't stop. Just when we got past Miss Volker's house, I heard the loud fire whistle. I knew Mom wouldn't find me in my room. I couldn't get there fast enough. There was only one thing I could do. I ran to the back of our garage and opened the little door. I ripped the costume over my head and threw it to one side. Then I quickly opened the souvenir chest and grabbed the binoculars and ran out the little door and around the garage and up the steps to our back door, and in a flash I was in the kitchen. Mom was just flicking on the light. "Where were you?" she asked, and I could see the concern on her face because she had been in my room. "Here," I said, avoiding the question as I held the binoculars. "Quick, which house is on fire?" She held the binoculars to her eyes, and as she stood at the kitchen sink and scanned at the town, I slipped down to the hall, to my room, and kicked off my shoes and threw the flashlight on my bed and wiped the sweat off my face with my pillow. When I returned to the kitchen, she was on the phone with Mr. Spiz. The fire had been put out by neighbors almost as quickly as it had started. The house was scorched, but not burned. By the time she got off the phone, I was in the bathroom. "Good night," she said. "Sleep tight," I said through the closed door. The end of chapter 19.